Hello, hello. I am back with episode 2 to talk about the couple of versions of chores schedules that you could use when you're first starting out. I will share my screen and we will go through them. What I have are 2 versions, a basic one and a more detailed one. And I'm going to make these available to you so that way you're not having to start from scratch. And the way you can get them is to please DM me your name and email address at Stephanie TFC, either Facebook or Instagram, and then I can email that info to you with the newsletter that we're starting. So let's get started. What I can do here is share my screen. I am just learning some of this stuff, so hopefully I get it right. Okay, I think it's gonna work. Okay, let's see if we can move this over. So what I've done is basically break it out into 3 categories. I've got the ages 3 to 6, then ages 7 to 10, and ages 11 to 15. And with the basic, excuse me, ages 3 to 6, basically I've got some instructions here, just starting out with some real basics, right? Like if we're talking about our 3, 4, 5-year-olds, excuse me, maybe we can teach them how to make their beds in the morning. And if you have a pet, they can be responsible for helping to feed your pets and then cleaning up the play area, right? Like every day before play is done, we clean up and then it's nap time, right? So just starting out with just a couple, 2 or 3 things that they're doing every day. And what I recommend is that you check it off with them, have them watch you do it. So they're completing the task and then you're checking it off. And what that helps you do is start to help them build some accountability, right? We're not just assuming that they're doing it every day. We're checking that they're doing it every day and then giving them kudos and giving them a check mark for it. Now, if they miss a day where they don't feed their pet in the morning, for example, then they don't get a check mark. And if they are missing any check marks for that week, say, for example, feeding the pet, if they're missing any check marks for the week for that line, then they don't get credit for that and they don't get paid for that. At least you can build up to that, right? So that way they learn there's consequences, right? The idea is they do these things and they earn some money at the end of the week. So you can place the child's name here and think about how much that you want to pay them starting out per week. And then this is where you could put in the month and you've got each week listed here. And then at the bottom, you can see, okay, what did they earn in total for that month? Nice little chores list to keep everybody honest about what's going on. And then when they get to ages 7 to 10, now you're adding some items here, some things that are age appropriate for them to be able to take on. So between 3 and 6, they're building that skill, right? They're learning how to be consistent and that they're responsible for something, and then they earn something for it. And you establish what that's going to be. Same here for 7 to 10, you're establishing what that amount's going to be. Of course, if you're adding on additional tasks, then the expectation is that there should be additional money that they're earning. And let's see. So you're checking off that the child is completing the task in the done column. Now, what you're seeing here is that there's going to be some things like homework that's now on here that isn't going to be listed for Sunday or Saturday, for example. While other things, maybe you'll decide that they can clean the mirror and the counter in the bathroom, but they only need to do that once a week. So Sunday could be the day that they do that, and then you check it off, right? So certain things may not need to be every day. And I'm going to make this where you can change it how you need it, because everybody's schedules are different, right? So, and also the task that you want them to do, that can be different as well. So, it's starting to get a little bit more advanced, if you will, because now they're 7 to 10 years old. They can take on more things. There's going to be certain things that are due on certain days. So now they're learning how to work through the demands from day to day. And, maybe this develops into time blocking, right? They can learn how to block their time out as they get older, because they're used to already working by something that tells them which things need to be on which days, right? And then, of course, you still have your total earnings at the end. Same rules apply for checking that box. And if this task isn't done, then they don't get paid for that, right? So you determine what they're going to be paid then, considering that they're not going to get credit for that task. One of the things that came up with Vincent was he was like, well, he started getting really smart about it. Actually, he was like, okay, well, I don't have time to do this. So just go ahead and deduct it from my pay. And it's like, well, wait a minute. So I don't know how often you can get away with that, where you're like, okay, I'm going to deduct it from your pay. Because then they might be like, well, yeah, but I know you deducted 50 cents. That's not a big deal to me. I'm okay with that. And so then we had to have a conversation that it's not okay to deduct it. If you were working for anybody and you were not performing the task that you were assigned to do, they would not just stop at deducting your pay. At some point, they'll probably fire you for that. And certainly if you own your own business and you're trying to start a business, if you don't perform these tasks, then who will? And are you going to be successful? So that was something that came up at some point where it was like, yeah, go ahead and deduct it. The other issue that we ran into was he would say, well, I don't feel like doing it Sunday. Can I do it Monday? And so you have to decide how flexible you want to be with that. Sometimes things just come up and you have to say, okay, today is not a good day for that. We're going to move this to tomorrow. But then you have to follow up to make sure that that task is still getting completed, that there is that accountability factor, right? Because yeah, things do come up, but you still are responsible for making sure that this task is done. And if you don't follow through, then it doesn't get done. And so another thing that came up was, yeah, I don't feel like doing it, or I don't have time. I've got all these other things going on. And one point that I had to make was, okay, so who do you think is going to do it if you don't do it? We all play our role in this house, and ultimately you're responsible for your part in maintaining this house. This is your home too. And so, yeah, lots of fun conversations. And I would love to hear about what comes up for you as you start this journey. What do your kiddos say as you start going through and assigning chores and those kind of things? Another thing that would come up is that once he started doing one of his chores, he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He didn't like it. And it's like, okay, yeah, but you chose this chore. That was one thing that I did as well. As I had a list of chores for him to choose from as he got older. So when we moved from 3 to 6 years old to 7 to 10, it was like, okay, here's a whole list of all of the chores for the house. So what are some chores that you want to take on to get more pay? And then he started it and he didn't like it. And so he wanted to change it. And it's like, okay, well, you can't just change something now that you've committed to. You need to stick through with it. So you can determine how long you think that should be. I think I try to make it at least a month of this is what you're going to do. You're going to finish the sheet. And then we can look at replacing that with a different chore. And, the other thing that would come up is eventually is that he was like, well, I think I should get paid more for this. And so it's great stuff, right? Like these kids think of all kinds of wonderful things as you work through this. And so it's like, okay, so how much do you think that you should get paid for this? Or why do you think you should get paid more? And so we would have conversations about that. And so I said, okay, well, you just switched to this task. You haven't been doing it for very long. I need to see that you're going to be committed to this and be consistent with it and do a good job. And then once you've demonstrated that, then I can see maybe giving you a pay increase. But I'm not going to do this every month or, even every week. I think that maybe we look at this twice a year. And so you pick your times. So I picked May and November to consider giving additional pay for additional items, not necessarily just getting paid more for the same task that you're doing. But if you're going to want more pay, then I expect you to take on more responsibility. And so that's the transition between the 3 to 6 to the 7 to 10. And you might even start adding some things here in this time, during this time as they get older. So again, this has got enough weeks here to account for the longer months versus the shorter months. And like I said, you can move the X's around to indicate which days things are going to be expected to be done. So that's 7 to 10. 11 to 15, basically same rules apply. You're still reviewing and checking off what they've completed. And they need to check off all items, or there's no pay, or maybe you do a partial pay. And if they're a repeat offender, what I ended up having to do with Vincent at some point was actually deduct money from him, because I'm like, if I have to pay someone else to do this now because you're not doing it, I can't pay you both. So then I'm going to have to take money from yours. So you're not only not getting paid for that task, but I'm deducting because now you're a repeat offender on this. You need to commit and stay committed to this task because this is what you said you would do. And this is what helps the house. So, it just all depends on your kiddo and what you feel comfortable doing as far as what those consequences can look like. And let's see here. So between 11, so you can see additional tasks came up, and it's just a matter of picking out the days that you think those things need to happen. So very basic, you're just listing the chores and then when are they expected to be done. And then the highlighted fields are where you're going to be checking it off as it's completed. So that is the basic sheet. Now, if you want to get more detailed, now I'm just curious. I want to see something. Okay, good. Okay, if you want to get more detailed, then I have the chores schedule handout that's detailed. And the biggest difference is that I've added an amount here for each line. So now, instead of just being this overall amount for the week that you're listing up here, Now you can say making your bed is worth $1. Feeding the pet in the morning is worth 50 cents, and so on. And what this does then is this is where you can get more specific about what you're going to deduct if they don't complete the task, right? Or they can see what I started to do is I started to look at the whole list of tasks that I listed out, and I said, okay, what are some of the more complicated or dirtier jobs that maybe he wouldn't be as interested in doing, and I'm going to make that worth more money, because then maybe he will be more motivated to take on that task because it's worth more money. So, the easier tasks that are not worth as much, or maybe it's that they don't have to do it that often, right? So think about what the criteria is, and then you can set the amounts that way. And then this total is what you're listing up here. And 3 to 6, it's still very basic. But then when we get to 7 to 10, that's where I get more detailed about the expectations. What I was finding happening is that Vincent would just kind of breeze right through the task. So dusting, for example, he wasn't lifting up the items to dust underneath, or he wasn't dusting around behind it. He was just kind of like wiping across the front, and that was it. And it's like, look, when you commit to doing something, you need to be all in on that. You need to do the best job that you can do on that. You don't want to just, do the bare minimum, because then that just leaves more work to do possibly for somebody else, or you're not really showing your full potential by only doing a part job, right? And so really just trying to teach those the work ethic, right? Like whether it's your own business, whether you're working for someone else, you want to give it your best, right? Because that's what you're being judged on, is your behavior, not what you're thinking, but what are you doing? What are your actions saying? And so if you don't care about what you're doing here, then that says a lot about whether somebody can rely on you to do a great job, and give you more responsibility and more money, right? So these are the concepts that we discussed throughout this journey. And so I started to build in expectations, be very specific about what it means to make your bed. So because he would pull the covers up, but all of the toys that he slept with and the pillows that he had, they'd all still be on the floor. And it's like, no, the expectation is when you make your bed, the blankets go up, and you have to have all the pillows and your blankies and whatever else that you're sleeping with on the bed, nothing on the floor. And if you do that, then you're going to get X amount for that, and you need to do it every day. Some things you don't need to really be setting expectations on, but other things like cleaning the mirror and the counter, that means wiping all the areas and around the faucet, not just the counter, and then you leave the sink dirty. You got to clean the counter, the sink, the faucet, around the little drain, right? When you do the mirror, it's not just where you're looking, but like the whole mirror. And of course, as you assign each of these tasks, or they pick each task, then you want to walk through, what does that look like? This is what I expect it to look like when you're done. And what's really cool about going through this process is that first off, they're learning how to take care of the home themselves, right? So as they get older, they're learning that they can earn money, And we start building on that by how you earn money in different ways and what you can do with your money. But also, like, how do you take care of yourself in your home? And when they grow up and have their own places, then they're going to know how to do these things, right? So, some people might think that it's a punishment to make them do some of this, but at the same time, they're picking the task, right? So you have the whole list of things that need to be done in the house. What are they choosing to do? And then you show them how you expect it to be done, and then you hold them accountable to that. And they start to earn money from doing that. Let's see what else. Oh, help bring groceries in. So it's not just bringing the bags and throwing them on the floor, but all the cold foods go in the refrigerator. All the cans go in the pantry. All the shopping bags go where the shopping bags go, right? So really be specific about the expectations. And then there's no surprises about, for you as well as for them on what is task to be marked as complete. And then for the 11 to 15 range, now there's even more tasks like changing the sheets and maybe yard work, vacuuming, right? And those things are not every day, they're just once a week or every 2 weeks if you want to do it. You just need to specify that. Again, being very specific about what that looks like for them to be successful in completing that task. So those are the chores schedules. You've got your basic, and then you have your detailed versions. And basically the guidelines that I had to develop over the years as Vincent would come up with new things that he wanted to try or do, really pushing the envelopes on some of these things. And it's like, okay, that's a really good point. Let me figure this out. So I hope that it helps you. And like I said, definitely share in the comments what your experiences are with these. I'd love to see it. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.